What's up, guys, and welcome back to PricePlow. Today I'm doing something I've never done before, a reaction video to a marketing video and reacting to the claims that they make, the things that they say about the product, and how they use the data to talk about the product in a great way. Now, we all know that marketing can be used to differentiate from relatively similar product offerings between different companies, especially in this industry where most companies have access to pretty much all, like 90% of the same ingredients. Now, one of the greatest companies that does this is KAGED MUSCLE. KAGED MUSCLE has an incredible brand personality around clean ingredients, clean life living, biohacking, all that stuff. We love Chris, and we love the way that they present their products because it really makes you feel like you're part of Chris's lifestyle. And this is in no way a negative point. All brands are challenged to take their products and communicate the points about them in an interesting, compelling way for customers to pick them up. So today, with the launch of their new omega-3, which is in a clear soft gel, which you'll see in the video they talk about, I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at this YouTube video that they've been circulating around. I did a quick skim of it earlier on, being completely transparent with you, but I thought it'd be fun to come back and do a long actual watch of it live on camera and do some reactions for you guys of the things that I know about fish oil, the things I might want to know some more about fish oil, and make some content out of it. So full transparency, we have no business affiliate relationship with them right now. They did send me this for free. I did have a call with Brian Rand, the formulator of KAGED MUSCLE, earlier on, and kind of just ask him some questions about fish oil in general. I pushed him on some stuff, and you know, he's a very reasonable person. I really enjoy talking about this kind of stuff. And I feel like I'm really prepared to kind of take a fresh look at this video and give you guys an interesting take on it. So I'm gonna play the video on my laptop here. I'll probably overlay it on the video just so you don't have to listen to it through the computer. And I hope this is entertaining.
That fish oil capsule that you just put in your mouth, the one that you're taking to support your health, it came from fish, if you're lucky, loaded with mercury, factory farmed in a toxic stew of sewage and swimming in their own antibiotic treated shit water.
Chris is awesome at this stuff. I love Chris. I've been lucky enough to do a couple lives with him, sit down and eat with him a couple times, and he's a really interesting guy, and he does a great job of really talking about, especially like your food and where it comes from, the quality of that. Listen, I was an ovo-pescatarian for 2 years. I'm not going to tell you that most fish oil comes from a great place. Most fish oil in the world comes from a small handful of manufacturers that then sends it out to encapsulators, and it is then private labeled for a lot of different brands, being completely the same source for most of them. They are mostly farmed. It's kind of a disgusting thing the way they're held there. They are given lots of antibiotics and drugs and stuff like that, especially when they're in other countries, unlike America, where there actually are, contrary to popular belief, a lot of regulations around the antibiotics you can give to animals before we harvest them. He's doing a great job here of pointing out some great points. One thing I would say is that any respectable company is actually doing heavy metal testing, and mercury is not going to be at a high level in it. We've seen this recently, Prop 65 cases where companies are not testing for heavy metals and they're getting in trouble for that. Any self-respecting quality company is testing for that kind of stuff. So he does a great job of breaking down bringing up some disgusting points about food in general and fish oil. The mercury point, it's definitely out there. You go to Walmart, you pick up some cheap fish oil, absolutely going to be an issue for you. But if you're ordering from a quality company like KAGED MUSCLE, if I didn't watch this video, I would still think that they're testing for this stuff. A lot of other great companies that are being manufactured from good quality manufacturers are testing for heavy metals.
Feel healthier yet? Hello, I'm Chris Gethin, CEO of KAGED MUSCLE, and I'm here today to talk to you about our new omega-3 fish oil. Now, you might be wondering why.
Half the reason I love Chris's videos is his Welsh accent and his pronunciation of things different than other people. That's nothing against him. It's just really interesting.
Why are we coming out with a fish oil when there are literally hundreds of them on the market? What could you possibly do to improve such an established category? Well, let me tell you. Most people are familiar with the benefits of taking a fish oil supplement, and there are many, supporting heart health, brain health, joint health, and more. But unfortunately, what people don't realize and what most brands don't want you to know is that many mass market fish oils are downright terrible. They're low quality,
So this kind of applies to almost all supplements, really, if we talk about it and think about it. Our small group, you know, you as followers of PricePlow, if you follow some great companies or influencers, like, you know, other fitness informant, Stack3D, you know, Nutri-Brow, KAGED MUSCLE, if you're in that niche community where you have access to good content, you probably are looking at good quality products. But the vast majority of companies are much larger than these companies that we're talking about. And, you know, I'd say a good 75% of the fish oil out there probably is absolute trash. But one thing that I will kind of bring up a few times in this video that I already thought about when I skimmed through this for the first time, I talked to Brian, is that as incredible as Kaged Muscle is, and they bring out great quality, don't let that defer you from understanding that there are other great companies out there. This fish oil, I mean, I've already looked at it. I've already checked it out. It's great quality. And the job of any good marketer is going to be to present their products as the best possible. There are other good options out there. We're going to get into that. But he's doing a great job of bringing up absolutely great points that the vast majority of these products are trash.
They're low quality, may contain high levels of toxic metals, and often come from one of only a handful of manufacturers.
So I've already brought this up. There's only a handful of manufacturers that make most of the stuff in the world. It's sent straight over to from China to here, already in soft gels, and then most brands are just having it packaged here. High level of toxic metals, it's entirely possible. Every here and there you see consumer reports that are testing this stuff, and they're showing that. But again, if you're ordering from a high quality brand, they're testing for toxic metals. It was introduced into law in California, and pretty much everyone sells to California, so they have to be compliant with that, or you'll get a letter from a couple hundred different lawyers in California. Low quality, we're going to get into that for sure.
They offer brands a quick and dirty solution to slap their label on a bottle to get that fish oil product to the market quickly and cheaply.
So this is what I was just saying. Private labeling is the process of taking a product that is already, or white labeling it's sometimes called, it's already manufactured and it is just bottled for you and slapped your label on it. Last year we saw the ABH Pharma issue. These guys were encapsulating tons of fish oils, a lot of capsules, some gummies, a lot of the stuff there, including the big brands that you're actually thinking about right now that were involved in that. They were just having fish oils bottled there that were being manufactured overseas. A lot of these brands will either just go to a manufacturer and use their stock fish oil, or they'll source it themselves and have it bottled in the States. That's what Kaged Muscle is doing here. They've sourced it themselves outside of the United States. It's shipped into the United States for their contract manufacturer to then bottle it and label it. The difference here is that, Kaged Muscle is going the extra step in and vetting the quality of that fish oil that's being imported. There's a few other companies that do this as well. There are people that care about quality, but Kaged Muscle is definitely one of the top ones here.
Brands love this approach because it's fast, it's easy, it's cheaper, and they don't have to do any of the hard work of sourcing expensive quality material. Cheap fish oils are cheap for a reason. They're often rancid due to poor.
So it is true that is cheaper just to do that private labeling stuff. It's easier, it's simpler. It's absolutely true. I'd be interested to see if Kaged Muscle has a purchasing manager that is actually managing the supply chain. I'd be very surprised if they are, because they have a great manufacturer that probably takes care of it for them. But he makes a great point there. They went through, I know Brian was looking for over a year for one of these sources, and they went through a lot of different steps to vet this source and bring a lot of quality in. So Chris is doing an awesome job of laying this down in an understandable, digestible way for regular consumers.
Manufacturing and processing practices, which means they smell bad, they taste bad, and if you've ever taken a fish oil that's given you the dreaded fish burps, this is why. And that's not to mention the unwanted high levels of mercury.
So this fishy burp thing is going to come up a lot in this video, I remember. The one thing that I would say is that defining fishy burp is kind of important here, because he's talking about the fishy burps that come up and taste horrible. You can absolutely regurgitate these flavors from these products. The difference is that the fish oil, and this actually tastes really good. So if you were to burp after having the capsule, it's not going to taste bad, but that can happen with any kind of capsule. The difference is that this is a really high quality fish oil, and you can actually cut it open. I've done this. It's part of this kind of whole talk that we're going to talk about here. You can cut it open, squirt it in your mouth. It's going to taste great. If you were to burp that up, you wouldn't really notice. But if you burp a rancid fish oil, it's absolutely going to taste disgusting.
And other heavy metals. That's just the horror show of the fish oil production. Now, you've got to consider the quality of the fish oil itself.
They're going to bring up this mercury a lot, and it's a great point. It is really important to bring up here. If you've looked into high levels of canned tuna consumption, mercury is a bit of an issue. But again, I'm going to bring up that most high quality brands are doing heavy metal testing. It's actually very important.
For that, you need to look at what's known as the TOTOX value, which is the total oxidation measurement of oil oxidation. Fish oil oxidizes easily, and when it does,
So this is absolutely true. This is a really big deal. I I think he's going to relate this to the color of the capsule, which I'm not always the biggest fan of because there are a few other products that are not clear, but in triglyceride form, not rancid and quite fine. But this is a great point. And part of the issue here that we're going to run into is KAGED Muscle offers a lot, and this is not an issue, but just like in terms of comparison, it's going to be a little difficult. KAGED Muscle offers a lot of data that other brands don't offer up. So they're going to offer a lot of data here that supports their product really, really well. And it's hard to compare that to the rest of the industry, which doesn't offer up that information just because most consumers don't really care or look up this stuff or know to look up this stuff. So sometimes you can cause like paralysis by analysis, but Chris does a really great job of putting this information out in a digestible way.
One of the things you will see with most fish oils is that they're dark yellow in color. They have a very bad fishy smell to them. And many of them don't use a triglyceride form, which is much better quality and highly absorbable. So now we're talking about fish oils produced in filthy fish farms, treated with antibiotics.
Okay, so it's a really great point. Toe tox is definitely something to be looking at. There can be a lot of rancid products out there, and not a lot are in triglyceride form. Some great companies that I thought were really high quality, I've realized later on were not triglyceride form. Wiley's Finest was a company that I usually always trusted. They're in ethyl ester form. You don't really want to be taking that. But the devil's advocate here is that there are a few other companies that I trust and I've been using for some time that are triglyceride form. This video is not sponsored by KAGED, so I'm definitely going to say here that some other ones you can look up are like Revive MD has a triglyceride form fish oil that's considerably high in dosaging as well. With it's a higher like percentage of total fish oil. Their capsules are a little bit smaller. They use less total fish oil, but they yield a higher percentage of EPA DHA. But obviously this one has, we'll get to this a little bit later, overall a much higher actual dosage of EPA DHA. They just use a higher dosage of fish oil to achieve it. Another one is Organa. Their Icelandic omega-3s in triglyceride form. Again, pretty high dosages, 620 DHA, 820 EPA, 1,000 milligram fish oil dosages. KAGED Muscle does an incredible job with their ingredients and their products, and they do a really great job of communicating that, but I would just kind of want to put a footnote there that they're not the only brand doing this kind of stuff with triglyceride form and non-rancid fish oils. During the actual phone call I had with Brian Rand, the formulator, he was like, do me a favor, go in your kitchen and cut off the tops of a couple soft gels of fish oils. As you can imagine, I have a lot of different fish oils. I was literally on the call on speakerphone, like snapping off tops of soft gels and squirting in my mouth. It sounds disgusting, but you very quickly figure out which ones are rancid and which ones are not. And not all of them are rancid. I definitely had a couple, but I had a few shining individuals that stuck out that were high quality. So, I love this content from KAGED Muscle. I love how they put this stuff out there, and they're doing a really great job of differentiating these health supplements. But I always just want to make sure, this is kind of just something that I always try to fit in, is that like there are multiple brands doing high quality stuff in most of these areas. He talked about sourcing of ingredients, how they do it themselves. That is really important and great. But there's no ingredient provider that is exclusively giving ingredients to just one company. Wherever they're getting this fish oil from, I think they said it was sardines, that manufacturer, that provider, like they're not just being held up by KAGED Muscle, it's going somewhere else as well. KAGED Muscle is just doing a better job of communicating it, to be honest with you.
So now we're talking about fish oils produced in filthy fish farms, treated with antibiotics and chemicals, loaded with mercury, have a high Totox level, and this is what you're consuming to support your health?
So that's absolutely all true there. Filthy fish farms, we know this just from fish. Like if you eat a lot of different fish in America, it's farm raised. It's disgusting. They're fed antibiotics. They can be high in mercury. The fish itself is high in mercury. The product, most often you're getting tested and it's not gonna be that high, but he makes some incredible points here. And I mean, you're using this for your health, but then you're introducing a decent amount of kind of dirty factors. Kind of important.
3, we didn't want to introduce another Me Too formula that uses the same low quality fish oil that everyone else uses. That's just not the KAGED Muscle way. But that's also why it took us so much longer to get this product to market. We wanted to introduce.
This is not like a data point or anything, but I've always been a proponent of this. KAGED Muscle does a lot of things differently, whether or not you agree with them or not. Their microencapsulated glutamine was a stab at this, and I really like how they continuously try to innovate in different ways. That one wasn't received very well, even though I actually kind of was a fan of it. They do go out of their way to try to innovate and offer something that's at least differentiated from the market. if not innovated on top of the market.
Introduced one of the purest and cleanest fish oils on the market. One that didn't utilize cheap, highly oxidized oil loaded with heavy metals.
Okay, so there's a couple different things here. He's right that it's low in metals, it's high quality. But one word that he did bring up was purity. And as I talked about before, so just in this case, you get 1,100 milligrams of EPA out of 3 grams of fish oil. So you can roughly say that's about 1 for every 3 grams, right? 30%. If you were to look at some other brands, for instance, Revive MD gets 800 milligrams of EPA out of 1.7 grams of total fish oil. Organa gets 820 milligrams of EPA out of 1440 milligrams of omega fatty 3 acids, so like total fish oil. Purity is an interesting word to use because when you're talking about the absence of other issues like heavy metals and stuff like that, it's definitely very pure. But don't make any mistake about it. These are bigger capsules. The quality that they're getting isn't coming at any cost. It is a little bit more volume of fish oil. But again, total fish oil is really important no matter what, even if it's not just EPA, DHA. I normally tell most of our consumers to look at EPA and DHA when they're trying to pick one for themselves. But that being said, this is all positives here. When you talk about purity, I do want to differentiate that there are other products that are in the same range, if not, sometimes more competitive. It's still just an incredible product still.
And this meant that we needed to develop a customized sourcing and manufacturing strategy, which adds quite a bit of complexity and development processes. It's also...
This is totally true. Sourcing it yourself as a company is not simple, and if I was going to come up with a new company, I would not want to source things myself. You would want to make it as streamlined and easy as possible, letting your manufacturer do most of the work. I would still bet that after they finished up this whole supply chain, they handed it over to their manufacturer because they have a really high quality, great manufacturer that could handle this. But I know for a fact that Brian Rand put a lot of work into sourcing this. It took a lot.
Very time consuming. We spent months researching, vetting, and meeting with manufacturers from across the globe until we found one that not only met our standards, but far exceeded them. The result is quite literally one of the cleanest, purest, and most potent fish oils you'll find anywhere, bar none. And here's why. We sought out the best, most ethical fisheries on the planet. In fact, our fish are sustainably sourced from wild fisheries in the South Pacific off the coast of Chile, which is one of the most plentiful fishing grounds in the world.
This is really important. Sustainably and ethically sourced that's really important personally to me. I'm a huge animal lover. Even fish, which aren't as relatable as like, a dog or a bird or something like that, or even like a cow where you get your whey from. I really wish they leaned into this a little bit more because I know there's a lot of other animal lovers out there and that was really important to me. The location where it's being sourced from, there's not really a lot of ways that we can verify this. I know that they have a code that you can put into one of the companies that they work with to verify the fingerprint of where it comes from, but they didn't actually provide that number to the customers. It was provided to me, but I don't think it was supposed to be public out there, so I'm not going to put it out there. In any case, they really did go through a lot of different hoops to make sure this is high quality as possible and as verified as possible. And I have to hand it to them. They did some great stuff here.
By going directly to the source, we could ensure that the fish being used were wild and sustainably caught, and they were properly and ethically stored and extracted, and that they produced a superior quality triglyceride form of oil. In fact,
so all of these things are basically the opposites of the opening to this video. They're wild fish, not made or farmed, sustainably caught. They're not, farming them and completely killing a population. They're sustainably catching them down there in the South Pacific. Properly stored. They didn't really talk much about that, but the superior triglyceride is properly stored has a lot to do with the extraction techniques that they do to get it into this superior triglyceride form.
KAGED Muscle omega-3 is one of the only...
And in fact, they don't talk enough about the triglyceride form here. That's a really big deal. And it's like head and shoulders above the rest of the industry that's using ethyl ester forms.
KAGED Muscle omega-3 is one of the only fish oils that has proof of origin. We use a special testing method through our partner firm, Arrivo, who take all the fish from the geographic location that we harvest from and then send them to Norway for an identity print to ensure that every batch is of the same pure quality species and geographic origin.
So I'd be really curious to see this process, because Chris obviously wants to pitch it as it's Caged Muscle's process and they're doing it for them. It's very specialized, but for them to do this whole thing just for Caged Muscle is really expensive. So I'd be really curious how this whole thing works. I didn't, like I said, I skimmed the video before I had the call, so I was much more concerned about general fish oil quality and stuff when I was talking to Brian. This is like super in depth, and it probably is very expensive to achieve. So I'd be very curious how they are actually able to manage this.
Now take a look at our capsules compared to other leading competitors. Notice how ours is virtually clear compared to the dark yellow coloring. This is due to the patented two-step process that we use to both purify and clarify the oil to ensure it's free from unpleasant side effects common with most fish oils, like that terrible.
So this is like really common in supplements, but I do want to bring up, he uses the words "we" a lot. Caged Oil doesn't do the extraction. They're buying it from a provider of the ingredient. I mean, it's great for marketing purposes to say "we." It absolutely, I mean, for all intents and purposes, actually, especially in the eye of the law, they are the manufacturer. But I just want to make sure you guys know that Chris isn't out there catching fish. He gets into this clear part here. Before we go into it, I'm not going to talk too much during it, but I want to just make the point. When I was on the phone with Brian, I did kind of bring up, like, Brian, there's a lot of other companies out there that are great quality. They're not rancid. They're in triglyceride form that aren't clear. And he did say, you know what, that's right. There are a few others that are out there. But they're going to rank a little bit higher on that TOTOX scale, but they're still very high quality. So I'd be interested. I'd love to send out a couple other brands to TOTOX testing and see more about it. I'll be very clear and transparent here. I'm not super versed on that and the industry standing in that stuff. So until that kind of data is available, I'm going to shut up and not talk too much about it.
Smell or fish burps. As I mentioned, the darker the yellow, the more oxidized the oil has become. And that comes down to the oxidization and the TOTOX values, which again is measurements of the fish oxidization. Even the best fish oils out there have a TOTOX score of 20 or more, which is the industry standard. Caged Muscle Omega-3, a TOTOX value below 5. Now, this is simply unheard of in this industry. And that is exactly why we made it our mission to bring that level of quality and purity to our customers. We've literally spared no detail in making this a superior product. And that includes our soft gel.
So absolutely right here. It's unheard of. I don't know any other company that does this. And unless we have more data, they're the reigning champs on this one, absolutely. It's such high quality that we've seen formulators from other really well-known brands that I'm not going to name drop here, because while they did post a public review, I don't know if they want their name out there, but this blew away a few other people in the industry. They did an awesome job here, especially with the transparency of the quality. They did an awesome job, and I'm really proud of what they were able to put together here. It's definitely a huge step forward for Caged. I have a lot of questions all the time on my Q&A of, when is a new hardcore pre going to come from Caged, but they're spending their time on stuff like fish oil here, which was one of their biggest launches of all time, I think. They're doing an awesome job with this.
And that includes our soft gels. We use a premium fish gelatin, not animal byproducts like bovine gelatin, as is the industry standard. There simply isn't another company in the sports nutrition industry that is offering a product this pure or that will stand behind their fish oil like we do. Why?
I'd really like to know what's so bad about bovine gelatin for capsules. I mean, I like what they did with it. It's kind of cool how they keep the whole thing in line, but I'm not aware of anything that would make bovine be a negative impact for the product. Maybe I'm missing something. Like I said, I'm not the world's expert on fish oil, but interesting.
Because they can't. Because they're using low quality fish oils from who knows where that may actually be doing you more harm than good. Now, I dare you to compare our.
So I don't know about the doing more harm than good part. I mean, absolutely, if you're getting high levels of mercury, you're definitely outweighing the good with that. I would say a lot of it's probably just net zero if you're taking rancid stuff that's oxidized and just actual trash. But Chris does an awesome job of taking this data and really driving it home that you should be buying Omega fish oil from Caged. Honestly, I mentioned those other two brands. Outside of that, I can't tell you any other brand that's this high quality.
To compare our supplement facts panel to whichever fish oil you are currently taking. What does it say? 180 milligrams of EPA, on 120 milligrams of DHA per serving.
So he's definitely right. There are some really, really low dose products out there. But if we're going to look at other high quality products, for marketing purposes, they're not going to compare it to other good products, right? That's kind of like just kind of a dumb idea. But let's be real. If you were to compare it to high quality fish oils on the market, it wouldn't be under 200 for both those important factors. Like I pointed out before, there's a few other brands that are higher dosed. But this is a commercial for KAGED Muscle. I'm not faulting it. Nothing. It's negative, but I always have to kind of give that devil's advocate. There are some high dose products too.
We have 1,100 of EPA and 900 milligrams of DHA. So don't be misled by the big numbers on the front of other fish oil labels. It's all about the EPA and the DHA. Take a look and you'll see that the choice is clear. KAGED Muscle Omega-3 is definitely...
The choice is clear. I love that. Yeah, he makes a great point. This applies to all of supplements. The large numbers on the front of products are often for multiple servings or something playing with the numbers. You should always turn the product around and look at the supplement facts panel. Chris does an awesome job here, kind of just stuff that applies to all supplements, like giving out just great advice of how you should be searching for your supplements.
Definitely in a class of its own. It's pure, it's clean, and it's free of the filth and nastiness common with factory farmed fish oil. It's burp-free, it's certified by both Friend of the Sea and the International Fish Oil Standards Council, it's dolphin safe, and it's Aerovo certified. So, you see, fish oils are
I don't know what dolphin certified is, but that sounds cool.
definitely not created equal. That is, unless you're using one of the generic, low-quality, mass-market versions that litter the marketplace. But if you truly value your health, are concerned about the quality of supplements that you put into your body, and want an effective omega-3 fish oil supplement, then I highly recommend you give our omega-3 a try.
You can tell Chris was an editor for some time. He writes great. He's got great word choice for this kind of stuff. He really makes, like, he really gets that across. Like, other fish oil can be like actual literal trash. So this is the ending of the video. He closes us out here.
I'm Chris Gethin. Thank you for watching.
So that's awesome. I mean, I love Chris. I think that the stuff that he creates is quite incredible. And I think the video speaks for itself. There's some obvious devil's advocate points, but you know, pretty much anytime you watch an ad, they're going to position their product the highest quality they possibly can. And he did just that. I think he does a great job of using real, true data. This video went so long that my camera cut out. So Chris never lies about the data. He never misrepresents it. He does a great job of just offering it in a well-interpreted, easily digestible form that most people are going to understand and they're going to appreciate as supplement consumers. So I got this product for free. We don't have a business affiliate relationship. We have a coupon code you can use if you want, but we don't make any money. Use PricePlow at checkout if you want to purchase some product. And that's it. I hope this was educational and helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. As always, I appreciate making this far in the video, and have a great day.
Welcome to PricePlow.